Hey, what's going on, everybody? We are live. I am Adam. This is Highly Articulated. And today we are going to be talking about toys because that's what we do. I'm excited. I actually had a little bit of time to look at new toys today, and I'm sort of aware of what's going on in the toy world today. I think it's not been quite as hectic a week this week as it was last week, so that's always good. It's fun, and it's an absolute privilege to be sort of working in the toy world these days. But the fact that I have a full-time job plus a toy job plus a family makes for very busy days. I find that it's not as easy to get a few minutes for myself to just sort of nerd out and scour the internet for new toys and new reveals and things like that. So it's been really cool. New York Comic Con showed off some great new reveals, some great new figures, some stuff that I'd sort of forgotten about or hadn't really even thought we would ever get. So we'll get into that in a moment. But before we do, I'm just going to say hello to the chat. Star is here. Josh Brown is here. Star was having a conversation with himself for the first few minutes when I jumped in the studio here. Sam Rock looked up an answer for him. And Star says, so fired up. Jada Rep said that Cyberpunk Edge Runners pre-orders will probably go live within a couple weeks after the end of this con. I swear I tried to watch Edge Runners. It just wasn't my thing. I just couldn't get into it. I don't know why. It just wasn't. It wasn't for me. It wasn't. It didn't check enough boxes to sort of keep me interested. So. John says, give thanks and remember the Forerunners. Absolutely. Let's see. Ray Paz is here as well. Solo Sinner, and so on and so forth. I believe there are probably other people watching, not chatting, so that's cool. Good to have everybody here. Happy to talk toys with you guys. I will be curious when I sort of go through the New York Comic Con stuff. I'll be curious what your guys' favorite reveals or pictures that you saw or whatever will be. But hold off. I'll sort of ask that question towards the end, and if there's sort of anything that I haven't discussed, and we still have a bit of time, I can circle back around. But before we talk about New York Comic Con 2024, I do want to mention one more time the Gravestone Guardians backer kit that is going on right now. This is, of course, a 5.5-inch scale line. Now, it's not quite a line just yet. They sort of hope to get the line flushed out, but they got to get this one off the ground first. I'm putting the link to the backer kit in the chat there if anybody wants to go check it out. It's a cool line. I think this fits if here's who should buy it. Anybody that is into She-Ra specifically, Masters of the Universe, I think that's an easy fit. Anybody that's a girl dad, that's a collector, I think this is also a slam dunk because this is sort of that line that you can kind of get your girl into, or girls in my case. And in my case, I think my 3 girls will probably appreciate this. My 5-year-old, my 8-year-old, and my 42-year-old. So very excited about this line. I think these figures look fantastic. Dragonor, they'll also really fit well with those, I think. A slightly, modern sort of updated look. But yeah, you get 6 points of articulation. which is pretty standard for this style of figure. You get the removable tiaras, the soft goods, the bladed weapon, the Gravestone Guardian stand, and they did an early unlock of what were going to be the stretch goals. So I definitely immediately backed those. So they unlocked so they have the standard version, which is just the standard painted version, but they've unlocked the crystal edition, which is the glittery crystal effect translucent figure, as well as the chrome edition, which is the vac metal version. So if you're interested at all in those, I would strongly recommend that you get over there to BackerKit and pledge, because there's 14 days left. There's 2 weeks left. They're about a third of the way. I'm still hopeful that they can get there. I think we might see a push at the end. So I'm still pretty confident that this will get there. I don't know that it's going to hit the 90,000 that it needs to unlock the second figure, but hopefully, with this figure, if they can get this one made and they can get this one in people's hands and they can get people talking about it, maybe they'll have the funding for the second figure. So definitely go check that out and support that backer kit. Garrett Sanders, as I said, it may not be familiar to sort of many of us in the that are shopping primarily in the boys' toys aisle, but infamous, I would say, among collectors who are collecting either Monster High or Forever After High. So yeah, go check that out and back it if you're interested. Don't back it if you're not. I had somebody in the comments on my last video said, I'm going to pass. And I was like, I get it. It's not for everybody. I'm not saying, I'm just telling people what I like and sort of saying, hey, go check this out if you haven't before. So check this out if you haven't before. Moving on from there, let's take a look at this. So this is, of course, the Toy Arc New York Comic Con link list. So these are great. This is, I love that Toy Arc does this. I appreciate them for this. They basically take all their coverage of New York Comic Con, or any con for that matter, and they'll kind of put it all in one page, and you can click all the links to sort of go through all the different stuff that they covered, which is super, super handy for somebody like me that doesn't have all the time in the world to kind of bounce between a whole bunch of different sites, picking and choosing, one article, sort of one thing, like, oh, we got first look at this, whatever. So this is the Toy Arc, and if you just go to Toy Arc, it's like right on the front page. It just says like New York City Comic Con links, and you can kind of just click on that, and away you go. So there's a few things that I wanted to talk about. I'm not going to talk about everything. There's lots of stuff that I don't collect, so you would want to hear my opinion on the Mondo Masters of the Universe, because I'm not buying them. I don't have any opinion on them as such. Well, I do have an opinion. Those Mondo Masters of the Universe figures are pretty amazing, but not in my collecting sort of space. I'm gonna start with this. I'm gonna start with the McFarlane toys, because I don't buy any McFarlane toys. I think in my collecting life, I bought one McFarlane Superman, and when I got home, I realized he had 2 left feet, and I returned it, and I've not gone back since. Not because they're bad, and not because I don't like DC or anything like that, but I don't love the McFarlane figures. I don't love that they don't scale properly with anything. But when I saw this Kong, and I saw that they're doing Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong, I was interested. Okay, it's not something that I would normally look for. Kong is not something that I would go for. But when I look at this picture and I see, a 7-inch Batman next to what's probably 10, 12 inches, probably about a foot tall, like a really well sculpted, well designed Kong there, I get excited. And then And then something terrible happens. I take a closer look at the figure and I realize I don't think I want this figure. Maybe one of you can correct me. Maybe you guys have sort of more, you've been paying attention more. Maybe there's sort of more to it than what I'm looking at. But this looks like a 5 POA figure. If that, actually it might be 3. I think there's articulation at the shoulders and I think there's articulation at the waist. And beyond that, I can't see any articulation at all. So this is like a dollar store Kong, which makes me not excited for it. Which is too bad. I mean, I feel like this would be cool. It looked promising to me because I thought, okay, the articulation won't be great because it'll be McFarlane, but it'll be an articulated Kong done fairly well. But it doesn't, it looks like they're holding hands in that picture. I also like that picture. But it doesn't look like there's any articulation. Maybe at the wrist. There's a little bit of a shadow here that makes me think that there might be articulation at the wrist. So you can rotate the wrist. I bet the arm goes up and down and then waist swivel. Like that's not enough, in my opinion, to sort of warrant me buying this figure. But what I was excited about was sort of this right here, assuming that this is, about a 4-inch figure. I thought that could be, or that's one of those page puncher figures, right? So they're like 3.5 or something. I thought, okay, this could be a cool gorilla to have, basically. But in the end, I think it's going to be a pass for me. It's just not quite what I hoped it was going to be. But anyway, that's fine. Star says, if everyone loved the same things and hated the same things, then this world would be pretty boring. I agree. John says, I was interested in this because I love Godzilla, but that thing is just a hunk of hollow plastic. Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is just not, I don't know why. I mean, like this, we just got like Kong versus Godzilla toys, right? And I can't even remember who made those. I want to say like Spin Masters or Jada or something like that. But I feel like those are probably better versions than this is. So it's kind of disappointing. With McFarlane, it's sort of like 2 steps forward, 1 step. No, you know what? With McFarlane, it's like 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Because I keep thinking they're gonna do something better, and then they just do something weird, and it's like they're just sort of constantly disappointing. There is one other interesting thing that I noticed when out of McFarlane. And no, it's not the weird hulky, chunky plastic that is the Swamp Thing. It was that, and it's not on here. It's in the other pictures when I'm not even going to bother looking at them. But McFarlane's doing guns now, packed in with their figures. That could be interesting. That could be interesting because that could sort of open the door for certain characters and kind of make some characters, more viable as figures, I think. So I'm kind of curious to see, where they might go with that. But just sort of a weird, interesting point that I noticed. Samrock says, pass for me. I'm not a fan of the story. I don't even know that story. I was just thinking that would be a cool gorilla figure to get, to be perfectly honest. Next up, we are going to move to kind of one of the more obvious things that I would talk about, which is the G.I. Joe classified stuff. A lot of really good stuff came out of the panel. I'm going to actually switch to the Full Force Podcast's Facebook. Let's see here. Let's go there. That'll work. So we got some digital renders, which I'm pretty excited about. This is very, very cool. I mean, I'm excited that they're doing this. The Legacy Collection. So this is new. This is different than the 60th anniversary figures. Legacy Collection. They're kicking it off with a firefighter. One can only imagine that we could see, a police officer, a paramedic, other figures of the genre, I guess. It's not something that I need. But I think, if you're a toy photographer, or if you're somebody that does a lot of, if your collection is more kind of real world, I think this is a really, really great option. It's going to be a good price point to get a figure like this. So I think I really like that they're doing this. I think this is really, really cool. It does feel like a throwback to the old, GI Joe line and Action Man line, and the sort of real life action figures. They're just really, really cool. I kept making the joke, and it's not that funny, but I think it's funny. Because I don't like this figure, and it's not for me. I thought the joke I kept making was like, "Oh, it comes with a wet blanket accessory. That's fun." We'll get like a produce manager at a grocery store if this line goes far enough, and then we'll really be really be on to something. I kid. That would be cool to get stuff like that because I think there's a market for it. But anyway, this is the Trench Viper and whatever they're calling that thing. I don't even know what they're calling this thing, but this is cool. I've seen I've seen mixed reactions to this. I'll be perfectly honest, and I understand why. I mean, this it's just kind of a cube. What do you need to do with a cube? Now, here's what I think people are kind of missing. I suspect, and I haven't heard this anywhere, and I don't know. I have, I'm looking at links. I'm not looking at. I didn't actually watch the panel or anything like that. I'm very curious what you might be able to do with this cube because these walls are hinged, and I assume they kind of click in or plug in to this cube. And in one of the pictures that I saw, I think it was from the panel, they showed two stacked, one on the other. So my guess is that these are modular, and that in theory, you could put multiple sort of in a line and then stack them, and you could build, if you bought enough of them, you could build a pretty cool like complex with these. So I think people are looking at this cube and kind of going like, whatever, it's just a cube. What's the big deal? Well, I think the big deal is that they're moving into play sets. To me, that's the big deal. The big deal isn't, the cube. The big deal is that we're finally getting this world, being built out. And I think, seeing this stuff is fantastic because, not everybody has a 3D printer. Not everybody's friend has a 3D printer. Not everybody lives, in an area where, there's access to 3D printed stuff or what have you. So I'll concede that this is pretty basic in principle, but in theory, if it works kind of the way I think it might, you buy 3 or 4 of these and you could have a pretty cool little setup. So I'm excited. I think it's cool. I think, I haven't even sort of dug too deep into the accessories, but it looked to me like you can mount the gun on like a turret and have it sort of come out the slot in the side there. You got sort of the radar or radio or whatever antenna that's going to be. You got a spotlight. You got 2 ladders. The sandbags to sort of fill out the bunker and stuff. I think it's a really, really cool idea, and as I said, I think it's a hint at what's to come. So I'm still really, really excited about Classified. I'm just not buying everything that Classified's putting out, and we'll get to that in a minute. But I'm really excited about this because I genuinely think that they're moving in the right direction with this line in terms of giving people what they wanted. And what I mean by that is play sets and playability for this line. If this playset isn't for you, that's fine. I'm not suggesting that everybody has to like this playset because they're doing it. I just think people should be more appreciative that they're moving into playsets because I've said this before. Probably not here. Maybe here. I don't know. But I've said this before. Making an action figure is one thing, but making a playset is a totally different thing. And it typically means another factory, which also typically means like more sculptors, more engineers. Like the cost to do this is a lot more than people think. So I know it's Hasbro. They got lots of money. They're doing vehicles, and so on and so forth. So this seems like a no-brainer, but it's not a guarantee that it's going to sell, right? So I think they're starting out with something basic, and then we could see more from there. But like I said, if this is modular, I think people are going to sleep on this, and when people get it in hand, if it is modular and people start kind of like setting them up really cool, I think people are going to be like kicking themselves for not getting them. Because I think a lot of classified stuff's been selling out. Um, or a lot of the stuff like this, like the Stinger kind of sold out, and the Vamp sold out, and like I think the Ferret is sold out. I don't know because I just pre-order and then I move on with my life. But I've seen people sort of saying, "Oh, I missed out. How do I get it?" Whatever. So I think this is going to be a really really cool set. I'm excited about this, and I'm gonna get 2 of these for sure. And then hope that there's more left over if it is sort of modular, because I'll want more of those sort of bunkers. Um, let's see. Very, very good point. Ray Pass says price point is key though for this bunker. 100%. I mean, but I mean, if they price this the way they've priced some of the sort of deluxe stuff, if this is, between 40 and 60, I think it's pretty reasonable. I'm hoping that it's like 40, 50. But even 60, like I said, if it's modular, I don't know. 50 for me is kind of the sweet spot, but and John says I'm so down for that bunker, and it's stackable. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I saw 2 of them stacked, but I'm curious to see, how it fits together, because I'm curious to see if you'd be able to build something other than a box. But you can stack an outhouse on top of another outhouse. Sure, and then put a big old gun in there. So that's, yeah. Let's see. What's going on, Quip? Good to have you. Thanos Copter is here as well. Jeff Moore says, kidding aside, if the bunker is not too expensive, I'll probably buy one. I'm there too. I mean, if it's expensive, it's gonna be a pass for me. But as I said, if it's $50, I mean, I'm in for 2 of them. Jeff Moore says, I have a feeling this will be 55. I think 55. Yeah, I mean, it could be 50, 55, sort of in that range. I'm okay with that. Ray Pass says, don't you think they could have just made the bunker, but to add extra cost, they made a figure? Yes. However, we haven't really gotten anything from the classified line that didn't come with a figure. So it doesn't really surprise me. Would I have liked to get just the bunker and pay, $40? Absolutely. Am I going to be upset to get that Trench Viper? No, I mean, that figure looks pretty cool. I mean, I love the Alley Viper. This looks like a pretty cool version of an Alley Viper, so I'm okay with it. And worst case scenario, you know what I mean? I think I think there's probably going to be a market for a couple of the Alley Vipers. The Trench Viper. So, if I get a few of these and I don't love the figure, I'm pretty sure that I could probably, not flip the figure, but sort of sell off the figure, and then sort of recoup part of that cost. And I typically, for me, like, if I can sell off, so if I buy 2 bunkers and sell the 2 figures, I'd sell the 2 figures for like $30 or $40, so that it's like less than the price of a figure, but it just offsets, the price of the playset plus figure. Jeff Morris, it would be nice to get the bunker only for 35 or the set for 55. Yeah. I mean, I agree. It is clearly just them trying to get more usage out of the Alley Viper buck, which I don't necessarily have a problem with. I mean, if you ultimately, if you don't like the price, you don't buy it, and I'll be right there. If it's more than $60, I'm not buying it. So, so then it's kind of on Hasbro to see what they do. Star says 80s G.I. Joes was one of the first lines that I can remember where a figure came with the playset and similar items. I was a big fan of that business model. Yeah, and that's the thing, is most of the G.I. Joe vehicles came with a figure. There were some smaller playsets that didn't, but a lot of things came with a figure. So it's on brand. Now, would I like to see something like this without a figure at a lower price point? Absolutely. Am I upset that they're doing it this way? No, not at all. Moving on to that guy we already covered. Footloose. This guy looks amazing. I love Footloose as a character. I think this is executed very, very well. I am really, really liking the secondary. I'm liking the web gear. I'm liking the belt. Apparently, that is a new rocket launcher. The Pedro Pascal head sculpt looks great. I do think it looks like the vintage figure, so I don't think that it's that far off. But yeah, this looks great, and I don't really know what else to say about it because it's a pretty standard, army building looking figure. It looks like Footloose, and I'm happy that it does. I would have liked a Joe Pro on him for a little bit more of an update. This looks pretty vintagey. I don't know what they're gonna do for a retro card at Footloose, but yeah, this will be a buy for me. This will absolutely be a buy for me. Now I know that not everybody has been super keen on this Snake Eyes, but for me, this is a great Snake Eyes with a bonus of a polar bear. But I mean, that polar bear is a no-brainer. Again, I know people are going to be like, I wish I could just buy the polar bear. I don't want another Snake Eyes. That's fine. You do you. I love this Snake Eyes. This is, the mass device Snake Eyes when he gets caught in the cave and then he gets radiation sickness or radiation poisoning. I can't remember what they call it. Oh, that's I lost my cactus. Asks what's with the Kool-Aid hands. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So in the first 5 episodes of the GI Joe cartoon, which was called was it just called the Mass Device? I can't remember. Snake Eyes had to go into this cave and he had to get this canister, this like element that powered this machine. And so he got this element, but it was radioactive, and so he was caught in this cave, and so he was like glowing, radioactive glowing. So he's got these pink translucent hands. Now, if you know anything about me, you know that A, I love Snake Eyes, and that B, I love translucent figures. So this is an absolute no-brainer. This is literally like Hasbro targeting me with their product selection. And then you add the polar bear. Like I said, it's a no-brainer. The classified animals have been fantastic. You get an alternate head for the polar bear. Somebody said there's no good boy head for the polar bear. I'm pretty sure this is about as good boy as a polar bear with a scar across his eye gets. There's an interchangeable piece on the shoulder here where you can put this piece where he's been shot by a couple arrows, which is really, really cool. There is a bear trap, which appears very much to me to be articulated, meaning you can open and close the bear trap. This is yes, this is an instant buy for me. This is a day one purchase for me. Let's see. Ray Paz said Footloose was the last figure I bought as a kid. Footloose is a great vintage figure, underappreciated vintage figure, I think, and that classified one is a really, really good Footloose. Jeff Moore says Footloose does look nice enough. I will most likely buy him. Collecting Brothers says I also see Papa Pedro. Everybody does. You can't not see it. And the irony is he looks more like Pedro Pascal than the unhelmeted Mandalorian does in the Black Series. So, you can always swap the head there if you want to. And Ray Paz says, I've been dying for this guy to come out. And he's talking about Footloose, I think. But Ray Paz says, I want that polar bear. I think everybody's going to want the polar bear too. Sam Rock says, I don't collect G.I. Joe, but all their animal figures are very cool and very well done, Sam. They are very, very well executed. I want the polar bear with a bonus Snake Eyes, please and thank you. For me, to me, honestly, flip a coin. I want both of these for different reasons. Like I don't really need a polar bear for classified. I want a polar bear, honestly, more for Mythic Legions. But I'm happy to get it by way of Hasbro because it's cheaper than getting it as a Mythic Legions. I mean, the Mythic Legions bear is a lot more expensive than this set will be. Ray Pass says you can see that Short Fuse and others can be made with that torso. Yeah, that's the tooling that they've got is fantastic. I mean, there's still a couple of the original 13 that we haven't seen in the classified line, but I'm sure they're coming sooner rather than later. We haven't seen that sort of padded torso or overlay that you would need for like Zap, but other than that, I think you could pretty much make anybody so far. Star says, how many animals does Snake Eyes have? How does he have time to fight while having to take care of a zoo? This one is this isn't his animals, and this is a little bit of a. I don't remember it being a polar bear that he saves. I thought he saved a brown bear from a trap, but it's pretty on brand. I can't wait till they do a killer whale in the classified line, and if you get that reference, good for you. That's a bit of a deep cut, but I want to see that. I want to see a classified orca. Jeff Moore says Snake Eyes is radioactive, so his hands glow. Yeah, exactly. Still waiting on the Hasbro animal line. You know what's weird though? So this is the frustrating thing, is that my understanding is, and I heard this from a very reliable source, and I've sort of heard it from a couple other sources too, and I don't mean just people that would have repeated, something that they heard. That effectively all the design teams are work independently. There is a little bit of crossover with Hasbro owned brands. So like G.I. Joe and Transformers, those guys are allowed to kind of communicate and go back and forth and sort of share engineering and design stuff. But that's as far as it goes. So the Star Wars stuff stays with the Star Wars stuff. The Marvel stuff stays with the Marvel stuff. And so when you see an animal in another line, they can't just use that tooling. Like it's apparently like, it's the ownership is like different basically of the work, of the design, of the molds, all that kind of stuff, which is crazy to me. But that's just the way that those contracts apparently work. And so there's certain animals that are in sort of one line that you wouldn't necessarily get. So they could do, and I've said this, I would love to see an accessory pack from Classified that was just repaints of all the animals that they've done, because we've got a crocodile, we've got a bear, we've got a dog, we've got a wolf, we've got an eagle, we've got a parrot. So there's, who am I forgetting? I think that's about it. But you could do an accessory pack of repainted animals, even just in the classified line. And I think it would sell. Like, I genuinely believe it would sell. Collecting Brothers, love this polar bear, but Josh was asking, is it big enough? I know polar bears are smaller than grizzlies, but bigger than black bears. Either way, I dig this. No, some of that is inaccurate. Polar bears are only smaller than Kodiak grizzly bears. Grizzly bears are smaller than polar bears, I believe, on average. Polar bears are massive. This is way too small. It's way too small. It also looks more like a grizzly bear. If I'm being perfectly honest, this sculpt looks more grizzly than it looks polar bear. And so I think we're gonna get a grizzly bear, and I think we could get a black bear, and I think, in a real stretch, we could get a panda bear. I don't think we will get a panda bear, but it is too small, but I'm okay with that. I'll take it. If it turns out to be really small, I'm actually going to use this for Cyberzoic. So I'm good either way. Josh says radioactive things don't glow. Come on, that's not realistic. Well, I don't think they glow pink, but anyways. Um, Solo Center definitely did not see battle damage polar bear as a reveal. Good point. I lost my cactus says, could that head fit on an AWOC though? I don't think so, and the reason that I don't think so is because the I don't have one handy. I thought I might have one of the heads from one of the dogs handy, but the ball joint goes in the back of the head rather than like the bottom of the head. So I just don't think it would. It would be an awkward fit, even if it did fit, on the ball peg. Um, so was the mass device big? I can't remember what that was. Yes, the mass device was big. I'm pretty sure you can look it up. I think those episodes are on YouTube. But basically, Cobra built this big machine that could teleport things, and it was called the mass device. Clever enough, and it required these elements. And so there was this element that they had to get out of a cave. There was an element that had to come out of the bottom of the ocean, and then I can't remember where the third one came from. I want to say it was the desert, but I could be totally wrong. Jack Knight 73. I'm just a little disappointed it wasn't a polar battle bear tease and reveal by the polar bear paw. I never say never. I mean, we could see it. We could see it. I don't think anything's off the table. I think it's just a matter of we don't get everything all at once, and that's good because we wouldn't be able to afford it, and we'd all be moaning that Hasbro doesn't care about us. Red 5 says that bear will go with your Santas. Absolutely. That's a very good point, too. I didn't even think of that one. Let's see. Warthog. That's right. Absolutely. I haven't even opened mine. Dang, I haven't even opened my Naga hide. Warthog and a monkey. Yeah, absolutely. Ray Paz will be down for a pet pack. I lost my cactus. Actually, polar bears are equal to grizzlies. Yeah, I think there's I believe it is somewhat regional. So I think some grizzlies are bigger, and I think some grizzlies are smaller, and often it has to do with region and stuff. Female grizzly bears are considerably smaller than male grizzly bears too. So there's variance there, but and I'm on Facebook, so I lost my cactus. Said polar bears have that long head. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking of when I sort of look at this head. This looks more to me like a grizzly bear's head. Justin Mohan, the guy from BC, is an expert on bears. We have a lot of bears. I'm not gonna lie. I try to avoid them as much as possible, but you do kind of know a decent amount just by living where you live. So perhaps it's a cub. Absolutely. It could be. Asteroid in a volcano was the third element. Thank you, Jack Knight 73. Yes, it absolutely was. I remember that now. And didn't Storm Shadow and Spirit fight on that island, on the volcano? I think, from what I remember, I haven't watched that in a long time, but it was fantastic. That's like, yeah, the OG 5 episodes, and they're so good. Star says, wonder how these bears will fit with space zombies from Mars. Well, they're not space bears, but we'll see. Okay, moving on from this one. I'm just very quickly going to go through the retro stuff because, quite honestly, the retro stuff doesn't do much for me. I prefer the more updated looks. This looks cool. The red is really red to me. And the red, I mean, like the hands and the wrist gauntlets. The rest of the red looks fine, but the red on the hands and the gauntlets looks to be like printed or sort of that color of plastic, whereas the rest is painted. And the painted doesn't match the plastic. Hopefully they can fix that between now and when these come out. I know there's a lot of people that are very excited about this figure. That's great. I've got too many of the Vipers from the original Vipers, so I'm gonna stick with those. I do prefer these boots though. The boots look better. The legs look better. This is objectively probably a better Viper, but I've already got enough Vipers, so I don't need this one. Very cool that it's coming with extra hands though. I think that is a step in the right direction. Mindbender, retro carded Mindbender. I'm happy for a lot of people that like didn't get this one. I don't need another shirtless, suspendered, mad scientist. So again, this is going to be a pass. This cape I think is better because it has the logo printed on it. This is like a perfect retro carded version. I never really liked Mindbender, but this is like a perfect Mindbender to me. I think, again, for two reasons. This is a more accurate retro one, so for people that want that, I'm happy for them. For anybody that missed the other one, which is either San Diego Comic-Con or a Hasbro Pulse, or a PulseCon exclusive, whatever it was, I know that there's still people that don't have Mindbender. So happy that they're going to be getting this. Retro Rock and Roll, very, very cool looking figure. Very, very cool that they're doing this figure. I know a lot of people that didn't absolutely love that the more modern Rock and Roll. I love the modern Rock and Roll with the tattoos. The whole look to me worked. So again, I just don't need this one. I was trying to look, and I don't think he comes with anything new. I think this is basically the exact same figure. So, I pick the version of Rock and Roll that you like. Do you like modern rock or do you like classic rock? Because now you've got both options. But anyway, that's that. He looks great. Jeff Morris says I will get Rock and Roll. Jeff Morris says I'm waiting for Retro Major Blood. That's cool. Like I said, I'm glad that people can get these. And Ray Pass says great job on Retro Viper. I think it looks good. I mean, they've executed these figures very well. I just lean more towards the updated versions. So I'm just happy to have these versions for people that want them, but they're not my thing. So that's so it's cool that we're getting them, but I'm good without them. Star said this one screams traffic cop. Jack Knight 73 says yes, and they fought for a piece of the Weather Dominator. Yeah, and then with the Weather Dominator, I think they fell in a river and then they had to work together. Or they fell in a pool or something. I can't remember. But yeah, classic G.I. Joe cartoons. Speaking Moistly, that's a good call. I don't think it is. But Speaking Moistly says maybe it's one of those white fur bears, black bears. What you're referring to is a spirit bear. And I don't think it's that, because that would be a very, very deep cut. And I don't think that would be reflective of what we've seen in G.I. Joe. But that would be great. And as a resident of BC where we have spirit bears, I would love that. But I don't think it's that. Let's see. I've never seen such a heavily armed scientist before. Well, yeah, I mean, Brick says, as always, I keep admiring Joe Classified from afar. Easily the most consistent, solid line at retail. Yeah, I mean, for how many figures they've put out, I would agree. They've really only had, if you consider Falcon to be a bad figure, and objectively, I would say Falcon is the worst figure in the line, as far as I can surmise. That's the worst one, and it's still a pretty decent figure. It just has a terrible head sculpt and some weird finishing that's bad. But anyway, that's a couple years ago, and they've gotten better. Let's see. Star says Rock and Roll has an awesome World War II feel. Yeah, I would lean more like Vietnam myself. But yeah, either or, I suppose. Jeff Morris, I like all versions of rock and roll. The figure or the music, Jeff? Star says, isn't that the same polar bear that's on the cover art of the Arctic tank? It could be. All right, moving on from G.I. Joe to another Hasbro property. We are going to move from from Facebook because the Toy Arc, I've been using the Toy Arc thing as my guide, but what I didn't find in the Toy Arc guide, I did find here on JediNews.com. So I don't collect a lot of Star Wars stuff. Love Star Wars, love all versions of Star Wars. Um, some more than others. But I've been getting some vintage collection stuff to kind of fill out. I've been getting vintage collection and Joy Toy stuff to fill out my Cyberzoic world, and this looks fantastic. This is Sabine Wren and a Howler. They're actually selling it as a Howler and Sabine Wren, which I think is on point because I need 2 Howlers. I don't think I need more Sabine Wrens. I think I already have 2 because I got Sabine Wren to get Lothcats, basically. Now I have to get a Sabine Wren to get a Howler, which is fine. I'm just going to have sort of a Sabine Wren, clan in Cyberzoic. So, that's cool. This looks like a great figure. It seems like it's an updated version of Sabine Wren, which is great. The helmet, when it's on her head, does not look gigantic like the last version that I got. The figure looks fine. I love that it has a poncho. That poncho is going to come in handy in that scale. But really, this is about the Howler. This is about getting more mounts. Just like getting Mandalorian and the Blurg was about the Blurg, this is 100% a purchase that will be made based solely on the Howler. I'll probably buy one from Pulse and then, or I might wait on this one and see if it's available from other retailers. Like if I can buy this through eCollectibles, I will for sure. This Howler looks awesome. I'm excited for this good boy. And he's such a good boy, he can sit, which I think is really, really funny because they've actually given you alternate legs so that it can sit and or lie down. I'm trying to find the picture because I know there was one. Where is it? Oh, you can see it there. So you can see this is sort of the loadout in the box, and you've got instructions here. So okay, so here he is with these legs, and then you swap the legs, and then fold up these legs, and then he can lie down. That's cool. I mean, to me, that's a good feature to have because I think for oh, come on. Oh, jeez. Why are you gonna do me like that? There we go. I think that's a good thing to have because I think if you're playing with this, great. But again, as I said, for toy photographers, I think they're leaning more towards the toy photographers when they're putting something like that in, because that just gives the toy photographers more options for like how you can kind of pose this and how you can take pictures of it. You could have 2 and you could have one standing and one sitting or laying down or whatever. So definitely a very, very cool figure. The Howler, I mean. Sabine Wren's fine. Jeff Moore says, I will for sure be buying that Howler and Sabine if it is the same price as the Blurg. I could see it being that same price. And that's what I'm hoping. That's certainly what I'm hoping. Collecting Brothers, you'll think we will never see these mounts in Black Series. Yes, I think we will never see these in Black Series. It seems to me, and I'm just trying to think through everything that they've done in the Black Series recently. Like, It seems to me that they are not doing any of this stuff in that Black Series scale. It seems to me that like we've gotten three Haslabs in vintage collection scale. We've gotten multiple ships in vintage collection scale. We've gotten now multiple mounts in vintage collection scale. In early days of Black Series, we got you got the Dewback, you got the Land Speeder, you got the TIE Fighter, but that's it, I think. Clearly, none of those was very successful at that scale. So they're leaning, the 1/18th scale for world building. Everybody that collects 1/18th, and everybody that I know that's like those crazy world builder guys, they're all building in 1/18th scale. So this makes a lot more sense to me, and so I genuinely do not believe we'll see this in a 6-inch scale. It would be cool, but I don't think we're gonna get it. Star says some of these look really nice, but SH Figure Arts has spoiled me for Star Wars. Had to go outside the lines. Those SH Figure Arts Star Wars figures, man. I'm looking at those movie realization figures, and I really want to get one. I really want to get that Mandalorian and Grogu, Lone Wolf and Cub. But not only is it not really available anywhere near me, it's just anytime I find it, there's something else that I've been looking for, and I just kind of stumble upon it. If I ever saw that in person, I would probably pick that one up. But I can't. I can't. Just can't. Star says a polar bear would work well with this figure too. There you go. And I think scale wise, you could have an oversized polar bear with a 1/18th scale figure. That would work really, really well. Jeff Moore says that is why my Star Wars collection will always be mainly 1/18th scale for vehicles and creatures. Yeah, exactly. It's 1/12 scale is great for figures, and I'll be honest, I've got some really cool stuff in 1/12 scale. The classified vehicles are amazing. It's so cool to have them. I got a Masterverse Battle Cat. I've got the Avatar Banshees. Like lots of really, really cool stuff. But it takes up so much space. It's bananas how much space you take up with 1/12 scale stuff. You can take up lots of space with 1/18 scale stuff. It's just luckily, scale wise, you can get more 1/18 scale stuff in the same amount of space, if that makes sense. But anyway, so don't bring the Mando and Grogu realization to Legion's Con and mark not for sale. No, do that, because if it's not for sale, then I'm good. If it is for sale, then I'm in trouble. That's my problem. Yeah, so that's there was a whole bunch of other Star Wars stuff that they did that I don't care about. Like honestly, I'm like, oh, that's cool. They did this figure. Oh, that's cool. They did another figure. I've been spoiler free for Skeleton Crew. But I'm very, very excited about it. I'm very excited about sort of the idea of it. I'm very excited to watch episode 1 and decide whether or not it's going to be a show that I can watch with my kids, is what I'm honestly most excited about. And the fact that it's like all kids makes me think that probably it's going to be somewhat geared towards kids. I don't know anything about this pirate Captain Brutus, but he does look pretty awesome. He's like with this bandolier of like piratey pistols. Oh, I do want this guy. I know nothing about him, so I'm not going to be pre-ordering him, but when it goes on discount somewhere and it pops up, I would very strongly consider picking this guy up. But I don't need it. And Brick says that's a damn good looking figure. Hell yeah, Captain Brutus. Do people know who Captain Brutus is? Like, is it sort of out there already? Because like I said, I've not been watching. I don't know anything about Skeleton Crew other than it's Jude Law and a bunch of kids. So, and I just prefer to watch my Star Wars that way, just in case somebody is somebody's dad or something. I don't want to know that ahead of time. Jeff Moore says, I will also buy a few of the TVC Snowtroopers. They look fantastic. I won't be buying them, but they do look fantastic. Where is it? This guy here. Yeah, they really do look good. But I'm not collecting Star Wars for Star Wars. I'm collecting Star Wars for Cyberzoic, so I don't know what I would do with that. But John says, I'm so excited for Skeleton Crew. Me too. Josh Brown says, looks like Star Wars Goonies. To me, it looks like Star Wars Goonies meets Star Wars Stranger Things. And I'm here for it too. I Lost My Cactus says, the pirates in Legends were those wolfmen kind of dudes, so it's cool to see they see that brought back. Yes. I think we've seen that species a couple times in Star Wars before. It just has like background characters and stuff like that. He looks fantastic. And I think he could kind of fit in with other lines too, which is why I'm a little bit drawn to that figure more so than the character. It may turn out that character's fantastic too, and then I'll actually actively want to get that figure for the character too, but we'll see. Let's see. Jeff Moore says that Wolfman is the only figure that from that line that I will probably buy just because he looks cool. Yes, for sure. Nolan, you're late. Good to have you. Good to have you. Let's move on. I'm going to move on to the two biggest reveals or the two biggest announcements from New York Comic Con. And those are, of course, the 22.2-inch tall Ultra Deluxe Marvel Legends X-Men 97 Marvel Sentinel. That's the full official title. So if you're ever referring to it, you're going to have to use that title. That thing looks amazing. And the Ghostbusters Plasma Series Ectomobile Anniversary Edition, which is, of course, a Haslab. Both of these are really cool. I'm not buying either of these. So, full disclosure, I have no skin in the game. They both look very, very cool. Let's take a look at the Ecto one. We're going to be very brief because I still got a couple things I want to talk about, and I want to wrap it up before too long. This looks really, really cool. 6-inch scaled Ecto one. You got two options for how you want to back this. You can back the base model at $325, which gets you the Ecto one, Slimer, the Library Ghost, and the stretcher that pulls out of the back that the proton packs would go on. Now, if you've already got the series 1 of the Plasma series, you are golden. You've been waiting for this for like 3 years or 4 years or however long since that Plasma series wave 1 came out. So at $325, you get the Ecto 1. If you didn't get those figures, or if you sort of do the math and you realize that this is probably a really, really good offering at $399, you can get the Deluxe Anniversary Edition, which is the Ecto 1 plus parts to do the Ecto 1A, I believe. I'm not a huge Ghostbusters guy, so I think it's the Ecto 1 and the Ecto 1A. You get the alternate top, you get the alternate decals, you get the alternate hubcaps. You get all 4 of the Ghostbusters in 6-inch scale, in Plasma series, plus proton packs, plus slime blowers. So you get a pretty, for like the $75 difference, it's kind of a no-brainer. And I think what they're doing, is pushing people to that deluxe by offering the base model at a price that doesn't make much sense when you sort of put it next to the deluxe offering. To me, that is very, very clever marketing, like insanely clever marketing. Maybe there's going to be people that get the Ecto one. Maybe there's people that are like, no, I just like Ghostbusters. I've got the Plasma series. I'm fine with that. Good on them. But I think 9-1, you're going to see the deluxe model when it starts landing at people's doorsteps. These look fantastic. The first thing that I wanted to know when I started looking at this, and I only looked at it like yesterday, so I was a little bit late to the party, but the only thing I wanted to know, does it make the siren sound? And it does. So this is, I couldn't think of any detail that they'd left out. As a bonus, if this thing funds in the first 2 weeks, everybody will get the Tully, which is fantastic. I think that's just cool. They haven't mentioned any stretch goals. I don't know if they've said that there's going to be any stretch goals or if they're just not doing stretch goals. I'm a little bit surprised that that there hasn't been anybody mentioning that there's no patches that come with this Haslab, which to me is a little bit of a disappointment. I know how popular the patches were with the Rattler, so I don't know why they didn't do them with this, but moving on from that, like I said, I'm not getting it. So if you want to hear more about if you want to hear more about the Ecto one, go check out the Yes Have Some channel. Go check out Geek Dad Life. I'm sure they're going to talk about it nonstop for the next month. I'm going to take a look at this, but before I do, let me see what you guys are saying in the chat here. Star says, I guess that werewolf character is the same alien species that we saw in the Mos Eisley Cantina. I believe it is. I think that's one place that we've seen them before, for sure. Ray Paz says that Sentinel is incredible. It is, and we're going to be talking about that just here. Ray Paz says, I am teetering toward that Ghostbusters Haslab. It's very, very cool. It is a very, very cool Haslab, and I think it's just a really, really cool piece. And I think that's one of those Haslabs that's probably going to hold its value, because I think there's probably a lot of Ghostbusters collectors that might not be, Hasbro action figure collectors, and maybe they might pass on it or not know about it. Or, I mean, it's shocking to me as somebody that does these videos every week that people don't know about toys, but I think there are people out there that just don't ever sort of clue into the news cycle and just wouldn't know that it's there. Nolan says that Sentinel does look pretty good, but the Ecto is just fantastic. Yeah, I think of the two, most people are probably more excited. Well, no, it kind of goes both ways. The Sentinel is very interesting, and we'll get to the Sentinel in a minute here. Collecting Brother says the deluxe set at $400 is a great deal. It is, but it's only a great deal by comparison. It's still $400. It's not cheap. Josh Brown says, I really hope we get re-released Ghostbusters 1 figures now. I'm shocked that they came and went as quickly as they did, to be perfectly honest. I think I saw them like one time in store and never again. Like they were never infilled. It was never like reordered or anything like that. So I'm kind of shocked that they haven't. But maybe they will. I suspect maybe they will, closer to the release of the Haslab. So you're getting figures with the Haslab, but I think I could see, I could see when production's like done on the Ecto one, maybe they would say, hey, by the way, we're gonna reopen pre-orders for Ghostbusters, because people will be like so ready for it. I think. I didn't forget the early bird Tully. It's definitely pushing to get the deluxe. Yeah, I think that's the way it should be. Josh Brown says no tears, the way it should be. I like this. Well, I'll sort of mention it again when I get through these comments and I get to the Sentinel too. I kind of like what Hasbro's doing. I know it's not for everybody, but John says they ain't doing stretch goals. Josh Brown, all in. This is what you get, and it looks worth it to me. I think so too. And I mean, what would you get beyond this? What would you get as a stretch goal? Patches, a notepad, like the like you got with the pack, the Proton pack, another ghost, maybe. I mean, that's kind of the only thing I could see. That's about it, really. I mean, like far stretch is if you could convert it to the Ecto from Frozen Empire, but they'd have to have the door go the other way, and then all that. So I just don't think it's feasible. I don't know what else you could put in there. I genuinely don't. QTube09 says, I want the new Sentinel, but I just got the Days of Future Past one. Yeah, the other. Do you mean the older Marvel Legends one, or do you mean the Haslab, the first Haslab? Just curious. Ray Pass says the Sentinel is a definite. This Sentinel looks phenomenal. I've forgotten how much the Haslab Sentinel was. My nose is super itchy. Forgive me. I forgot how much the Haslab Sentinel was. I'm scratching my nose, but I'm doing it off camera. Hopefully that's enough. I've forgotten how much the Haslab Sentinel was, but it was a different Sentinel. I think the Haslab Sentinel was like $225 or $250. So there's a difference in the price point. It had electronics, it had some other stuff. Was it the Sentinel that had a knee problem, or was it Galactus that had a knee problem? I can't remember. But Josh Brown says $350. Was it that much? So this is phenomenal. Then I thought it was like $250. So I thought this was like $75 difference. So it wasn't that big of a difference. But at $350, I mean that's two Sentinels for the price of one. So yeah, this is kind of a no-brainer. Fun fact about the Sentinel: this was sculpted by Dan Mitchell, who is also, if you've been paying attention, one of the sculptors for Animal Warriors of the Kingdom, and is working on his very own Bushido line right now. More on that in weeks to come. I'm not talking about Bushido at all tonight. But yeah, the Sentinel was sculpted by Dan. He said it's the first thing he's ever sculpted with articulated hands. So pretty cool. The pictures for this are too big to show that way, so I'll just show them this way. I love that it's an X-Men 97. I mean, this fits really well with that aesthetic. Very, very cool that they're sort of leaning into the X-Men 97 with more product. I hope they get an infill of some of those figures. I know that they did an infill of like Rogue and Wolverine, I think. Were those the two that they did a reorder on? But and Brick something. This is exactly what I was talking about. Hasbro exploring different ways to market their stuff. Haslabs, pulse timed pre-orders, all lease clearance. Yeah, I mean, so this is like you have until November 26th to pre-order this. So that guarantees that you'll be able to get one of these figures. Now, beyond that, I'm sure they will have in stock, some extras in stock. I would be shocked if they only ordered enough for the pre-orders, but it's entirely possible. And doing it as a pre-order model to me makes a ton of sense, because it's still a really big item. It's still an item that is not going to fit on retail shelves. It's still an item that they're not going to want to stock in the warehouse for very long. So I get why they're doing it as a pre-order, but this thing is fantastic. As I said, it is sort of like a simplified version of the Sentinel when you compare it to the Haslab, but you do get you do get basically the same sized Sentinel. You do still get pretty much, as far as I can tell, like the same articulation. And then you do get, the blast effects. You do get the damaged parts, so you do get the ability to make this look ever so slightly different. It is just the chest piece, the face piece, and the helmet, but nonetheless, it's certainly better than nothing. And I think this figure is going to sell very, very well. And I consider it a figure, even though it's 22 inches tall and $175. But yeah, very, very well executed. I think this is a very, very smart move on their part, and I'm very curious to see, um, what the figure, what the figure is like when everybody gets it in hand. So, um, Thanos says, "If I wasn't broke right now, I'd be in on this." To which the collecting brother says, "Thanos, no money down. We good." They aren't charging until it ships, which is interesting because you could back it, and I consider it backing it because it is a pre-order, and they could cancel it if they don't get enough orders for it. I mean, you could order it and worry about it later. Just saying. Um, Brick says, "Do we know how those ankles are going to work?" I certainly don't. Um, and when Dan sculpts these, does he do the articulation too? Yes, he does. Not every sculptor will, but the best sculptors will. And Dan did sculpt the articulation. So, because like some of the inside gets sculpted too, so that you can get the articulation to work, or at least that's what I've been led to believe. This ships October 1st, 2025. Thanos. Um, Josh Brown says all sites that take pre-order need an option to pay now or after the window. These are bad surprises. Yeah, you're absolutely right. When you order two of these Sentinels, and then a year from now they're like, "Hey, by the way, you owe us $350." You're like, "Oh, okay." Um, but yeah, it's listed. It's listed right here. This pre-order item will be available to ship on approximately October 1st. That's the other problem. It could be October 1st. It could be February 1st. You don't really know, and they just charge your card and away they go. I mean, you could take the risk. If it doesn't clear your card, then you just don't get it. But next up, we're gonna go back to Toy Arc, and I am gonna look at this. This is their Street Fighter, Mega Man, and Cyberpunk, the Edge Runner stuff. Mega Man looks cool, not my jam. They look fantastic. They're adorable, but I'm not collecting them. I'm all in on this. I think I realized after about 3 figures that I needed all of these figures. And so I'm going for everything in the picture, with the exception of the alternates. And I consider these alternates the Evil Ryu and the Angry Ken. I'm not going to get those, but Akuma and then everybody else, I'm in. But we've already seen that stuff. So that's not as exciting as the other Jada stuff. Jada revealed more of the Scooby-Doo stuff. Jada revealed more of the like food guys, and that's what I'm excited about. So the Scooby-Doo figures look fantastic. We now have the box, the packaging art, and how they're going to look. I think it looks great. I mean, if these are the same price that we've seen with like Street Fighter and stuff like that, I, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to get these or not. We'll see when they come out. We'll see when they come out what the budget looks like. But these look fantastic. I like that you get the alternate screaming Shaggy head. Like, that's pretty on brand. The Mummy looks fantastic. Every sort of update that I've seen looks better and better. The sort of griminess on the wrap looks fantastic. Can't wait to see, you know, more of that, sort of the full loadout of the accessories and things like that. Scooby-Doo looks great. Proportion-wise, he looks spot on, which I appreciate. I think it's funny that these are paint masters and that Shaggy's clearly been around for a while. You can see like paint coming off on his neck. You can see paint coming off on the hair piece that sticks out. So clearly these have been handled. These have been in and out of some packaging to kind of go from one con to the other. We get the alternate unmasked head. And then we get to see, I think for the first time, that they're doing like the masks removed as well, which is really, really cool. I think this is a no-brainer as far as the line. Tony the Tiger, as I said before, looks great. Chester Cheetah is fantastic. If you don't have that figure, you should get it because it's cool and I love mine. I think he's probably going to be in my top 10 for 2024. We're getting closer and closer to the end of the year, so I don't see him getting bumped. And then, as I said, we got the Fruity Pebbles and the Cocoa Pebbles with Fred and Barney. These are awesome. These look awesome. My only concern is that this Flintstones line will end at these two. When you go, okay, Tony the Tiger, I'll pick up Tony the Tiger. It's a one and done. There's not going to be a Tony the Tiger line, so I'm not worried about that. I don't want Fred and Barney and no other figures. I don't know. That's just me, but personally, that's sort of where I'm at with Fred and Barney. They do look fantastic, but I'll sort of wait to hear a little bit more news. I do love the angry Fred when Barney steals his Fruity Pebbles. Yeah, and you get alternate heads. So yeah, these look fantastic. I'm excited for what Jada is doing because everything that they're doing looks good. The Edge Runners aren't for me, but I know that I know that there's people out there that are all over that all over that Edge Runners line. So happy that is out there and available for everybody to pick up. That's all I've got. That's all I wanted to talk about. I've got to say, my absolute favorite reveal from New York City Comic Con is probably that Howler. To be perfectly honest, that's the one item that I was like most excited about and most surprised about. Snake Eyes and the Polar Bear might be a close second though. So let's see what you guys have to say in the comments. Like I said, if you guys want to tell me what your favorite thing was at New York Comic Con, let me know in the chat now. And when I get there, I'll take a look. Keep in mind that Brick Something will be live in 20 minutes. So definitely go over to Brick Something's channel and check that out. And then stay there for as long as you want. But do keep in mind that Yimbo reviews everything. It's going live, I believe, at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Don't go watch his show. He commented on my show a week late that I didn't mention his show. So don't bother going and checking out Yimbo Reviews Everything because he is a chump and you won't enjoy his content at all. You'll enjoy Bricks a lot more. Let's see. Scooby Stuff and Flintstone looks super fun. Josh Brown says you in for Shin Akuma, right? What's Shin Akuma? Is that just Akuma? I don't know Street Fighter very well. So I think that's just Akuma. Is there a different Akuma? Do I need two Akumas? Jeff Moore says I'm also a sucker for these Jada figures. Man, the Street Fighter figures are just so good. Nolan says don't have any of the Street Fighter figures. Need to order Chester Cheetah. Yeah, you do. He's awesome. You tell yourself I'm going to save for it, but then end up using all that money on clearance figures and Legions drops. Well, yeah, I prefer to prepay for stuff. Let's see. Amanda says, I heard that. Nolan says, the Scooby figures, I'm all in. Thanos says, I kind of want to recreate the old smoking commercial with Fred and Barney. That's right up your alley. It makes sense. Star says, I want that glowing green deep sea diver. I would love for that one to be like a glow in the dark figure. At the very least, if they can't figure out a way to make it look glowing, at least make it glow in the dark, which I think they could do very easily. And that's like a must. 3 toes and 4 fingers. Absolutely. I noticed that too. Star says, where's Fred, Daphne, Thelma, and the Mystery Machine? I believe Jada said that they're doing all of those. I think they even said that they were doing the Mystery Machine. What they're showing is basically wave 1. And they haven't set a release date or a pre-order date yet, as far as I know. So speaking moistly, are they going to make Captain Crunch? I hope so. And I hope that at the very least it comes with, I would love, and I think they could do it. I would love if it came with a Soggy, even if it was just like a statue type figure, like not even, like maybe the arms move, but I just feel like I feel like Captain Crunch needs a Soggy. Barry Pebbles has the female characters, so you're saying there's a chance. And Brick says, yeah, the Flintstones workaround was to use them as serial mascots. Yeah, so that's where I'm a little bit apprehensive. I don't need Fred and Barney as much as I needed Chester Cheetah, for example. And I don't need Fred and Barney as much as I would probably want Shaggy and Scooby. So, Brick says, Jumbo rocks. My fellow toy collecting public educator along with John at the Collecting Brothers. And don't forget Bill from Dork Lair. No, Yimbo's great, but Yimbo's like the nicest dude, and I just like to tease him as though he's not, because he's fantastic. But he commented on my last Sunday video on Friday afternoon, so I just thought it was funny to mention that. So that on Friday he can comment on this video. Next Friday he can comment on that. And Lagos Figs. I did not know that Lagos Figs was also an educator. Solo Sinner says, every week I have to simultaneously watch Brick Something and Yimbo. Yeah, I got to dual screen it every once in a while for a few different things. Sundays are so full. Sundays, there are so many great channels doing great videos. It's tough. It is tough. Let's see. Josh Brown says it's the Akuma variant you will need. Okay, shoot. I gotta look up Shin Akuma. Have they said they're doing Shin Akuma? Is he like a full? It looks like he's like the full powered Akuma. Maybe, I don't know. I'm worried. I'm getting the Akuma that they've revealed. I don't know that I need another Akuma, but we'll see. Star says personally I need the Space Ghost and the Herculoids. That would be cool. Brick says, I think the cereal mascot toy should be in a plastic bag at the bottom of the box under cereal. I agree. 100% I agree. Red 5 says, I was sad there was no NECA gargoyles on display. I hope it's not canceled. I don't think it's canceled. I think they just didn't maybe have anything to show. Maybe that's like, I mean, they weren't showing their full product lineups. New York is like geographically, like the size of the venue, to my understanding, is smaller than San Diego. So like if you're NECA, you don't get as big a booth. So you don't just take everything you make like you can in San Diego. You have to sort of pack it in. So that's why you probably didn't see every line that they do. If there was no news, they kind of just don't have it, right? Which reminds me, and I totally forgot where it is, so I'm not going to show it, but there was Ninja Turtles. So Mutant Mayhem Ninja Turtles figures for them in their like school clothes. and I want those. And Michelangelo, and I noticed like on the box for Michelangelo it says Michelangelo, like how they talk about how they're going to split their names to go to high school. But that was shown in a Walmart booth, so it's kind of like it's kind of one of those things. I don't know about the NECA gargoyles, whether it's canceled or not, but I think it probably wasn't there, not for any reason other than it just there wasn't anything to show that people wouldn't have already seen, and theoretically even like have in hand. I don't even know if there's any pre-orders out for that line right now, so I don't know. Nolan hopes that we get the Sugar Crisp Bear. Star says I'd like to get a Joe Rockhead. Ray Paz says Yimbo is so fun. Yes, Yimbo's great, but he's so nice that everybody's nice to him, which is he needs, he needs to be grounded a little bit, I think, sometimes. So, Josh said Abbott Elementary started a new season, and I'm excited. A lot of teacher talk here this afternoon. A lot more teacher talk than there ought to be on a Sunday afternoon, I feel like. Star says need some Water Buffalo Lodge hats and a Grand Poobah. That would be cool too. Let's see. Yimbo needs beef. But honestly, and I'm not saying that I'm trying to start beef with Yimbo, but can you imagine beef with Yimbo? Like it would be terrible, because he would just be, yeah, it would go nowhere. It just wouldn't even happen. Anyway, it sounded weird, but you get it. Yes, exactly. Anyways, guys, that's all I had to talk about today. Very quickly, I will, for anybody that cares, and I'm not saying that anybody cares, but for anybody that cares, Animal Warriors of the Kingdom Wave 4, I'm effectively just waiting for Fulfill Right to give me the green light. There was the last couple questions that I had to get ironed out. Everything is loaded into Fulfill Right. Everything is physically in the Fulfill Right warehouse. I'm just waiting to hear from them to basically say, yep, go ahead, push through the orders, and then Wave 4 will begin shipping. I will be wrapping up here and going back to looking at my screen, not for the purpose of looking at toys for myself, but looking at toys for you guys, because I'm already sort of getting the order lists ready to push through. So Wave 4 will be shipping any day now, like literally any day. I honestly believe, and don't quote me on this because it is still somewhat out of my control, but I fully anticipate that this week, and by this week I mean like starting potentially as early as tomorrow, Wave 4 will start shipping from the warehouse. So we will announce that other places too. I just wanted to mention that because literally that's what I was working on before I did this video, and that's what I'm going to be working on while I'm watching Brick's show, and maybe Yimbo show too. Anyways, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's always fun to hang out with you guys and talk toys, especially when I've been paying attention and I know what toys there are. New York Comic Con seems like it was, full of cool stuff, and lots of cool stuff, to be ordered, to pre-order, to get excited about, on and on and on. And yeah, just good to have you guys. Good chat. We're like bang on an hour and a half, which is like perfect. You've got just enough time to go have a bathroom break and grab a snack before you check out Brick Something's channel. So go ahead and go do that while I try to figure out where the button is to turn this on. Until next time, guys. Bye-bye.